everyone, and welcome back to Sundays in the Garden. If you're new here, my name is Sarah, and on this channel I share everything I get up to in my English cottage garden and kitchen garden area. In 2025, that literally means everything, as I am filming every single day of a gardener's year. What does that look like in practice? Well, I am filming every single day of the year, and the majority of those days are spent here in my cottage garden and kitchen garden area. And if I'm not here, then I'm filming where I am around the country, whether that's on holiday, visiting other gardens, gardening quotes, gardening articles, anything else that makes up this gardener's year. Then I share my weekly updates every Sunday at 4 o'clock. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, I would love for you to subscribe so you can follow along with my gardener's year as we learn and grow together. Today, I can hardly move in the greenhouse because I'm surrounded by tiny baby plants that we are hoping to sell at our Marie Curie plant sale next weekend. So things like seed sowing and doing jobs in here is kind of out of the question really until I can clear some of these seedlings and small plants. Tomorrow, though, I'm going to have to find a way because every year on the 17th of March, I sow something that is really special to me. So I'll share that with you tomorrow. Today, I am going to water everything in here and make sure it's all had a good drink to keep it going until next weekend. And then I'm just going to have a little wander around the kitchen garden area and check on how things are doing. I know lots of my brassicas that I planted before Christmas are getting munched. The broad beans are doing okay. I have just spotted over here, I can show you. Red epicure poking through the surface. That's one of my second sown broad beans. So they're going to go into the gaps, if there's any gaps up in the beds up there. And a lovely root sticking through the bottom here. So that one's doing well. And I can't see anything in the other pots, but let's give them a lift up and see if there's any roots underneath. I bet there are. Yes, so this one looks quiet on the top. This is one of my Gardener'S exhibitions, but at the bottom you can see there's a root coming. So it won't be long before the beans poke through the top. So they're all coming to plug any gaps, but I'm going to give everything in here a quick water and then move up to the kitchen garden and just check on how everything's doing. So just a quick look here at what chaos is occurring. Up here we've got all of the tomato seedlings of many different varieties in individual pots ready to sell next weekend. Things like the sweet peas, I'm quite attached to these because they're my favourite variety, so I'm not sure if I'm going to sell those. There are a few more down there. And then down here, a variety of other things along with my dahlias and my first early potatoes. There's some more first early potatoes underneath that bucket. But as you can see, things are getting a bit out of hand down here. So I am looking forward to having a good clear out after the seed sale next weekend. Okay, so now all of these have had a good water. So now I'm going to have a quick look around the kitchen garden area, see what's going on and see what plans I have for the next few weeks. So this is how the kitchen garden area is looking in the middle of March. And I think things are starting to look a bit greener now, which is lovely. Down here you can see the perpetual spinach is still going, and then behind the perpetual spinach are the broad beans. Here is a closer look at the broad beans, and I've got Gardener'S exhibition and I've got red epicure. Can I remember which row is which? No, I cannot. I'm going to have to look back at some of my older videos and see if I can make sense of that. Either way, I'll know as soon as I come to harvest them because the red epicure are a much redder bean. But I would like to plug the gaps with the like for like plant if possible. So fingers crossed I can work it out from my older videos. Over in the onions and garlic here, they're looking pretty good. Never sure how onion sets will do because they often don't get particularly large, but the garlic is all looking great. So I'm just leaving it well alone and fingers crossed it will do as well as last year, with the addition of the elephant garlic as well, which I can't wait to try. These are the blueberries in the fruit cage, and there's lots of lovely new growth on these, so I can't wait to see how they do in their new position this year. In here is the really sad purple sprouting broccoli which I planted in the autumn. It got well and truly munched, so I'm holding out no hope at all for these. There's a little more hope in here because I still have a few sprouts left to harvest, so I'm going to enjoy eating the rest of those over the next few weeks. And then next to them we have these cabbages here, which I planted. They're spring cabbages and they're looking absolutely tiny. We are in spring and they're not really ready to eat, are they? But they did also get munched and now they are starting to regroup. So I'm very tempted to leave these guys and see how they get on rather than pulling them out and discarding them. So we'll see what happens with these over the next few weeks. And finally for today we have the messy area behind the greenhouse, although this will look better once the dahlias are using those pots there. And then the nettle area is starting to grow again, so I'm going to clear off the dead stems and then use the nettles for nettle tea and nettle fritters. And that concludes the little review of the kitchen garden this Sunday. Hello everyone and happy Monday. You find me today feeling quite emotional because anyone who's been following me for a while will know that the 17th of March is a day where I sow my granddad's cornflowers. Over 20 years ago now, my mum was on a walk with my granddad and saw some blue cornflowers in a garden and pointed them out to my granddad and said, "Oh, I love those. Would you be able to grow some for me?" So he grew some for my mum. And then from that year onwards, we've collected the seed heads from the cornflowers he first sowed 20 years ago and then sowed them the following year. So the cornflowers that he first sowed have gone on for all that time. The ancestors of the cornflowers that he first sowed over 20 years ago have gone on to be sown year after year. My granddad passed away in 2009, so the 17th of March and sowing granddad's cornflowers has taken on an extra significance as we remember him every year when we sow them. Last autumn at the Malvern show, I took some seed packets with my granddad's cornflowers in and gave them out to people at the show. So if anyone was at the show and I gave these to, then this is a great week to sow them. They normally flower around Father's Day when they're sown now, so that just gives you an idea of when you'll be hoping to see some flowers. As I alluded to last week, I've got something really special coming up later in the year, and my granddad's cornflowers are actually going to play a small part in that. So I'm sowing them for both myself and for something a little bit extra special this year. So again, it's taking on even more significance this year. I'm going to sow some in the pot that I always sow them in every year, and that's out on the decking, so I'll take you out there in a moment. And I'm also going to sow some in some seed trays this year as well, just to give me more options and hopefully enough flowers for all of the things that I would like them for. I'll also keep a few seeds back just in case we have any disasters and need to sow some more. So I'm going to stop talking now and go and take a mindful moment to sow these cornflower seeds that are just so special to me. Tuesday the 18th of March was a busy working day, so I just had time to pop up the garden, enjoy the sunshine, check how everything was doing, and water those tomato seedlings in the greenhouse ahead of our plant sale on Saturday. On Wednesday we had an exciting trip out planned, so there was just time to pop up the garden and harvest some sprouts for tea before heading off out on our exciting adventure. We were lucky enough to be visiting Stoke Bruin Canal Museum, and we learnt so much about the canals and all of the wonderful people that have worked on them over the years. We enjoyed a picnic in the sunshine under the trees, Then we headed back to the museum for some tea and cake before jumping onto one of the narrowboats and heading down the river with our friends and even into the tunnel itself, which was so exciting and some wonderful learning opportunities for our two little boys. On Thursday, I popped to our local plant nursery to pick up some pretty spring flowers to add to our plant sale at the weekend. Whilst I was there, I saw some lemon thyme, and I love lemon thyme, so I picked some up and brought it home to pop in the final empty chimney pot up in our herb garden. On Friday, after baking some cakes and feeding the birds, it was time to tackle some of those mounting piles of rubbish which were once again building up around the garden. As before, I kept the larger pieces of wood to use as plant supports later in the season, and the rest went into our brown garden waste bin. Next, it was up to the kitchen garden to tackle the piles up there. Finally, as we had had so little rain over the last few days, I gave all of my spring pots a water, as well as the 2 boxes of plants I'd bought for our plant sale. Then there was just time to ice the cakes before tomorrow. And then the day arrived. My oldest helped me finish up the labelling of my seedlings. And then we moved everything into the house, ready to take outside for the sale. And what a wonderful sale it was. We managed to raise £155 for Marie Curie. And as if he knew, the first of my granddad's cornflowers popped through to say hello. Thank you all so much for watching. If you've enjoyed the video today, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all again next time for another week in my gardener's year.